Hello and welcome to this video on SOLIDWORKS assembly drawings. In this video we will look at some of the basic tools associated with assembly drawings and then some of the more advanced features you can add into your drawing. And what you can see here is kind of the basic expectation for an assembly drawing, that is an assembly in a visually useful orientation and parts labeled with a simple bill of materials or BOM. The numbers in this column correspond to the numbers in the balloons. Each of the balloons has an arrow that points to the edge of the part that is being referenced, and they are laid out so that it's very clear what parts are being referenced. So that's a pretty simple assembly drawing, and I'll show you some of the different tools that help us configure that. But I also want to show you, this is a little bit more typical in industry applications. You might have an expanded bill of materials as well, but this is an exploded view. I haven't included trail lines, so it's a basic exploded view, but what we see is each part exploded out of the assembly so that they're all distinct, clear, and it's a little bit different to visualize, right? So this is simply a different way to represent the assembly on a drawing. And so either will be correct for the completion of this module if you want to explore creating exploded views in SOLIDWORKS. So I'm going to go back into the assembly file, and I showed you in one of the assembly videos that you can explode your assemblies. So this is my completed assembly. If I come up here to the toolbar, I can choose exploded view, and I think you'll find that this tool is extremely easy to work with. You simply grab a component and you move it in whatever direction you'd like it to move. I usually try to do so in a physically realistic way. So my bearing certainly would go into the plate before the shaft went into the bearing, that sort of thing. And here it's probably easier to move my plate back from the screws rather than the screws out from the plate. And for this simple assembly that might do it, I can quickly add exploded line sketches, and here I'm just going to connect the pieces that go together. So for example, this goes with the screw, check mark puts it in. We'll repeat that a few times. Hopefully you can understand quickly how this is going, right? So I'm going to do several of them. You can see, it gets a little bit confusing because all of these are pretty much on the same axis, but let's see what's wrong. Oh, sometimes the arrow gets the wrong way. I really want this to just connect directly. So I just click that and turn it around. Sometimes sketch lines act strangely. It's often easier to delete them and try again than it is to debug a sketch. Checkmark finishes this tool, and now I have an oh, I missed a couple, didn't I? So let me add just a few more. So I have there we go. Remember to use the check mark in between each step, or you'll get very strange sketch lines. Here again, the arrow got turned around, so zoom way in and turn it around. Check mark puts it in, and return arrow gets me out of the tool. Okay, so if you want to try some of these tools out, by all means, feel free to do so. If you would prefer to simply deal with the collapsed assembly, these are the tools for you now. So we're going to open a new drawing from assembly. I'm going to just choose my template, and I'm going to insert a model view of the bearing plate assembly. Usually an isometric view works well. Here's where you would change if you're an exploded view or not. I'm going to put it in. And some of the features we can modify. Usually you want to shade this. We often need to scale it. So play around with the scale. You can change visibility on certain objects like the sketch on your downloaded parts. You can turn those off. And much of what we want is on annotation. My balloons are on annotation. So I choose the balloon tool, and I choose edges when I'm using the balloon tool. If you don't choose the edge, you'll get dots instead of arrows. I don't find that they're always as clear. That was a poor choice of balloon. Put that back in. The escape key turns the tool off if you don't like where a balloon's headed. Then you can turn it back on. And so last step here would be to insert a table for that bill of materials. So here it is, bill of materials. We pick a drawing view. I accept all the defaults, and then I'm just putting it in at the corner. It has a nice description area, so I'm going to put my caps lock on. We use caps lock, all capital letters for drawings, and just go ahead and break the link here. We're just going to So hopefully you get the idea. We arrange things as needed. Don't forget to go into your sheet format to modify things as needed. Scale's wrong here. And that's a basic one. If I was to change to an exploded view, exploded view 2 even has my trail lines, right? It just changes the configuration on the page. So real easy to try that out. Bring questions. Otherwise, this concludes the tools that we'll be using in assembly videos.